Welcome to This Week in AT.
This Week in AT, April 7th, 2025. Collegiate athletic training's future. What could future changes in collegiate attendance and sports mean for athletic trainers? The athletic training profession is in a constant state of evolution. Recently in collegiate athletics, it may be happening faster than ever with the introduction of name, image, and likeness, drops in enrollment, and uncertainty around federal funding. With so many changes, how could the athletic trainers working in this setting potentially be impacted? Let's discuss. Over the past several years, colleges across the country have had to shut down due to budgetary issues. This seems to be increasing, and after research online, the expectation is that more of them will close. Obviously, a school closing down would impact the athletic trainers working there and their employment. A unique situation occurred just recently where Bryn Athyn College, pronunciation, made the decision to shutter all of their athletics teams. Link in the Substack and will also include in the show notes. The reasoning being that the athletic side was too costly to maintain and it wasn't essential to the overall purpose of the university. Interesting aside to that point, over 50% of the students at the college were on athletics teams. That type of number of students that are also athletes is not uncommon at much smaller schools with lower enrollments. The athletic sides can be a huge recruiting tool. The catch is that very few, if any, smaller division schools, or maybe in some big schools, actually make money from their athletics department. It can be cost prohibitive. Having spent 7 to 8 years in Division III sports, this was always a question I had about how the money kept being invested in athletics if it wasn't a direct impact on enrollment. One example is the full-time equivalent for a basketball team, or the FTE. Some quick math on salaries and costs. In the example, there was a combined total of 2.5 FTE dedicated to coaching for a basketball team. If we took the head coach salary around $65,000, the cost of benefits, I chose 35% as it ranges depending on the institution, but 35% of salary, the total cost for the head coach at a 1.0 FTE was just under $88,000. If we just combine the assistant coach's FTE in the 1.5, however, that may be split up, combined was a salary of about $67,500. And again, with the 35% benefit, was about $23,625. Total, just over $91,000. If you then go and just add in the team budget, travel, general other things, I believe it was around $35,000. But those were often gone through and money had to be found either through fundraising or other aspects of the athletic department to cover that. So grand total, best guess is around $213,000 to $214,000. Not a small amount of money to operate a basketball team at a Division III institution. Again, Division III. Obviously, this changes with different institutions. Now, if we look at how much money comes into the university in just tuition for the players on that team, tuition for the in-state school that I'm talking about is less than just under $10,000, with them also having reciprocity with another neighboring state. So essentially, whatever the in-state tuition is at that state would be the same at the state across the border to make it so that you could go to either relatively affordably. Even with a roster of 20 players, the university will only be collecting about $200,000 worth of revenue. The numbers don't quite match. So this is just the coaches and team costs and doesn't factor in the athletic trainers, strength and conditioning staff, sports information, and other areas that support the overall department. Obviously, this is one example of a smaller team, and this can often get made up with larger teams with fewer coaches. Take a look at football, cross country, track and field, swim and dive. Larger teams that have more athletes paying the same with just less FTE or even more FTE but less FTE per student athlete. But it shows how quickly things can add up, and well, the math doesn't always math, especially at a Division III level where sponsorships are not necessarily supporting the entire department like at higher levels. They still exist, but oftentimes are plugging holes and don't make up for these huge numbers. With costs rising, schools trying to keep up with their own, quote, arms races for facilities, equipment, and other amenities, it can lead to situations where what has to get cut and where do those priorities fall. For a separate project, I looked through all Division III schools and how many athletic trainers they had on staff. Nope, some didn't list everyone on staff, so the overall number is potentially higher than what I found. The total was 1,468, probably closer to 1,500 if you take into consideration ones that just weren't listed. And you had staff sizes ranging from a single AT to a staff of 10, and everywhere in between. My concern for athletic trainers, especially at the Division III level, is that when the budgets are tight, does athletics get impacted, and how fast does that ball roll downhill to the athletic trainer? We, understandably, are not, in most cases, a revenue-producing part of the athletic department. Essential? Yes. Costly? We definitely can be. If you're at a smaller institution, or potentially even a larger one, pay attention to enrollment and what is happening around the campus, and ensure you've got a contingency plan in place if things start to shift. In Wisconsin, enrollment struggles have started. In 2025, there was a significant decrease in high school graduates, which in turn impacts college admissions. There have been a couple schools that have cut programs, and a few more who have made it so if you apply, you're accepted. Basically, no minimum standards required to attend. All of these efforts are there to ensure survival, but are signs to watch for. The world of college athletics is changing rapidly. It almost always is. I fear that some of the potential changes coming could have a negative impact on the profession. School closures are expected to continue. Budgets will continue to get tighter. So be aware of how that might impact you and your career. Job uncertainty is never a good situation, and the conditions in the smaller schools and collegiate athletics seem to be getting more precarious. Be vigilant and keep your options open. This week in AT. Tune in next week to get the happenings in AT with This Week in AT.